I thought moving into a nursing home would make life easier. My family assured me it was the best decision. I'd have care, comfort, and a stress-free life. I believed them, but once I arrived, reality hit hard. The routine wasn't mine to control, my independence faded, and the place never felt like home. If you're considering a nursing home, whether for yourself or a loved one, think carefully. It may seem like a convenient option, but there are things no one tells you before you move in. The loss of freedom, the rigid schedules, the feeling of being a guest in your own life, it changes everything. And once you're here, leaving isn't as simple as you might think. Before you make a decision, I want to share 6 hard truths that I wish I had known. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal might change your perspective forever. The first regret is feeling forgotten. Moving into a nursing home was a decision I made with the hope of receiving better care and easing the burden on my family. Initially, my family visited frequently. My daughter came by weekly, and my grandchildren often spent weekends with me. Those early days felt reassuring, as if I still maintained a connection to my previous life. However, as weeks turned into months, the visits became less frequent. Phone calls replaced in-person visits, and my grandchildren became increasingly occupied with their own lives. Holidays, once filled with family gatherings, became particularly lonely. Plans were often postponed or canceled, leaving me alone in the common room, watching others hold on to the hope that someone would walk through the door for them. This sense of abandonment isn't unique to me. Loneliness affects nearly half of nursing home residents, significantly diminishing their quality of life. The institutional environment, despite being filled with people, often lacks the meaningful social interactions that are vital for emotional well-being. The structured routines and limited personal autonomy can exacerbate feelings of isolation and helplessness. The COVID-19 pandemic further highlighted the profound isolation experienced in nursing homes. Facilities went into lockdowns, cutting off residents from their loved ones. This led to a surge in deaths of despair, as the already limited social interactions dwindled to almost none. While staff members provide essential care, their functional relationships often cannot substitute the deep connections and companionship that family and friends offer. The absence of these bonds can lead to a decline in both mental and physical health. Research indicates that unfulfilled needs for meaningful relationships and the loss of self-determination play crucial roles in feelings of loneliness. In an attempt to combat this loneliness, I tried engaging more with fellow residents and participating in organized activities. While these efforts provided temporary relief, they couldn't replace the unique comfort that comes from familiar relationships. The structured nature of these activities often felt superficial, lacking the depth and authenticity of the connections I yearned for. I realized that the decision to move into a nursing home should not be taken lightly. It's essential to consider not just the physical care provided, but also the potential emotional and social complications. The loss of independence, coupled with the gradual fading of family connections, can lead to profound loneliness and regret. It's not that my family stopped loving me. I know they care. But when you're no longer in their daily lives, it's easy to become an afterthought. They assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, that you don't need them as much as you actually do. But the truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget how much you still need to feel included. The second regret is the loss of privacy and dignity. Before moving into the nursing home, I cherished the holiness of my personal space. My home was my refuge, a place where I could close the door, immerse myself in a book, or simply sit in quiet contemplation. The transition to communal living stripped away these simple yet profound freedoms. Suddenly, my world was filled with constant interruptions. Staff members entering without waiting for a response after a perfunctory knock, scheduled room checks that felt more intrusive than protective, and the omnipresence of others in shared spaces. The ability to perform personal routines on my own terms vanished, leaving me feeling exposed and vulnerable. The erosion of privacy extended to the most intimate aspects of daily life. Tasks I once managed independently, dressing, bathing, using the restroom now often required assistance. While I understood the necessity from a caregiving perspective, it didn't lessen the sting of losing autonomy over my own body. Each request for help was a reminder of my diminishing independence, chipping away at my self-esteem. Compounding this loss was the reality of sharing my living space with a stranger. Not everyone is afforded the luxury of a private room, and the compatibility with a roommate is left to chance. I was fortunate to have a considerate roommate, but others weren't as lucky. Some residents endured the challenges of cohabiting with individuals whose habits were disruptive or whose health issues led to sleepless nights. The lack of personal space made it difficult to find solace or a sense of ownership over one's environment. Dignity, a cornerstone of self-worth, felt perpetually under siege. Being addressed in a manner that felt patronizing, having my routines dictated by an institutional schedule, and feeling like just another task on a caregiver's checklist all contributed to a growing sense of dehumanization. The cumulative effect was a profound feeling of being diminished, of losing the essence of who I was. Reflecting on these experiences, I recognize that the loss of privacy and dignity isn't merely an inconvenience. It's a fundamental alteration of one's sense of self. If you're contemplating the move to a nursing home, consider deeply whether you're prepared to give up these vital aspects of personal freedom. Once surrendered, reclaiming them is hard, often impossible journey. It's important to note that residents of nursing homes are entitled to certain rights aimed at preserving their dignity and privacy. The 1987 Nursing Home Reform Act, for instance, guarantees residents the right to be treated with respect, to have personal privacy, and to make independent choices. Facilities are mandated to protect these rights, ensuring that residents can maintain as much autonomy and personal dignity as possible. However, the practical implementation of these rights can vary, and it's crucial for prospective residents and their families to be vigilant and proactive in advocating for them. Understanding and asserting these rights can help mitigate some of the challenges associated with nursing home living. Yet the institutional nature of such facilities often means that, despite legal protections, the lived experience may still involve significant compromises to one's privacy and dignity. Engaging in open dialogues with staff, participating in resident councils, and involving family members in care planning can serve as paths to address and possibly alleviate some of these concerns. So while nursing homes provide essential care and support for many, it's imperative to weigh the potential loss of privacy and dignity inherent in such settings. Being informed about your rights and actively advocating for them can help navigate these challenges. But the transition remains a profound adjustment, one that reshapes the very fabric of daily life and personal identity. The third regret is losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing my address. I never imagined I would also lose my sense of purpose. At home, every day had a rhythm. I had tasks to complete, choices to make, and responsibilities that gave my life structure. Even something as simple as deciding what to cook for dinner or tending to my garden made me feel connected to life. But here, that sense of control faded quickly. From the moment I arrived, everything was planned for me. Meals, activities, even bedtime. The daily routines that once gave me stability were gone, replaced by a rigid schedule that left little room for individuality. The independence I had taken for granted disappeared overnight. At first, I convinced myself this was a break from the responsibilities of life, a chance to relax. But the reality was far from restful. Without tasks to complete or decisions to make, my days felt empty. The staff encouraged me to participate in scheduled activities, but bingo and craft sessions weren't the same as the meaningful routines I once had. One of the biggest challenges was the loss of personal responsibility. I no longer had control over simple things like how to organize my space. The autonomy that had once made me feel like an individual was replaced by a system designed for efficiency, not personal fulfillment. I saw the same struggle in the other residents. One woman, Margaret, used to run a bakery with her husband. She told me stories of waking up before dawn to prepare fresh bread, how she loved seeing her regular customers come in each morning. But here, with nothing to do, she sat quietly in the corner most days, her hands motionless in her lap. "I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted to me one afternoon. "I used to be someone people depended on. Now I just wait." The truth is, when you have no responsibilities, no one who needs you, it's easy to feel like you've lost your place in the world. Many nursing home residents experience this shift as their identity is reduced to just another name on the care list. The emotional impact is profound. What once gave them pride, whether it was a job, a home, or a family role, is now just a distant memory. I found myself questioning what my role was now. My family, who once turned to me for advice, no longer sought my opinion as much. Decisions about my own care were often made without my input. It was as if I had gone from being a person to being a patient. Another unexpected loss was the simple ability to care for things. Having responsibility even for something as small as a houseplant can improve well-being in elderly individuals. But in many nursing homes, personal belongings are limited, and even small acts of care, like watering a plant or making a cup of tea, are taken away. Even the simplest joys of life changed. Back home, I took pride in keeping my space just the way I liked it, arranging my books, and setting the table for dinner. Here, my room was cleaned by someone else, my bed made before I even woke up properly. It may seem small, but these things matter. They remind you that your choices still shape your world. When that is taken away, life starts to feel like something happening around you rather than something you're living. Over time, I tried to reclaim small pieces of myself. I started helping other residents write letters to their families, offering to read to those who had trouble with their eyesight. I found moments of connection that reminded me I still had something to give. But not everyone finds that path. Depression is common among nursing home residents, with many feeling like they have lost their reason to wake up each day. Without purpose, life becomes a waiting game, and the sense of self slowly fades. I've seen too many people fade into the background, their spirits dimming as the days blur together. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, you may have to fight to keep it. The fourth regret is realizing I had lost control over my own life. I never thought moving into a nursing home would change my life so drastically. I knew there would be adjustments, smaller living space, fixed schedules, and new faces, but I wasn't prepared for the loss of independence. Before, I lived on my own terms. I decided when to wake up, eat, and spend my day. I could go for a walk when I felt like it, cook my favorite meals, or sit quietly in my cozy chair with a book. But here, nothing happens on my time. Everything runs on a structured schedule designed for the facility, not the individual. Meals arrive at set times, whether you're hungry or not. Lights go out at a certain hour, no matter how awake you feel. Want fresh air? You need permission, and even then, it depends on staff availability. Simple choices like what to wear, what to eat, start to feel like privileges rather than personal decisions. The first week was the hardest. Waking up in an unfamiliar bed, I reached for the book I had been reading at home. But as I looked around, it hit me, this wasn't my space. My favorite chair was gone, my bookshelves empty, my surroundings sterile and impersonal. I had been relocated, but more than that, I had been stripped of the small comforts that made my house a home. A deep loneliness settled in, one that I hadn't anticipated. The most difficult part? Realizing that once independence is taken away, getting it back is nearly impossible. At first, you resist. You ask for small things like different food, an extra walk, a later bedtime, but over time, you stop asking. You accept what you're given, not because you want to, but because it becomes exhausting to fight for choices that were once yours by default. Eventually, you start to forget what it felt like to have full control over your life. Some of the residents told me that in time, I'd adapt, that the routines would become normal, and the sense of loss would fade. Maybe that's true for them. But for me, the hardest part wasn't just adjusting to a new way of living. It was feeling like my past, my preferences, and my identity no longer mattered. One afternoon, as I sat by a window, I overheard a group of residents swapping stories about their younger years. Their laughter filled the room, making it feel a little less cold. It reminded me that identity isn't just about where you live or what you own. It's about the experiences you share and the connections you build. So I made an effort to engage. I started sharing pieces of my own past, listening to others, and finding small ways to reclaim a sense of self. I chose a favorite seat in the common area, picked activities that interested me, and found joy in little moments. These were small victories, but they reminded me that I was still me. Yet despite these efforts, I can't ignore the truth. I regret moving here. No matter how much I adapt, I miss the simple freedom of making choices without restrictions. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the little freedoms that define your life? Because once they're gone, getting them back is far more difficult than you can imagine. The fifth one is declining health faster than expected. Before moving into the nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I was independent. I took care of myself and went for walks. Small daily routines like grocery shopping, stretching in the mornings, and even moving around the house kept my body active. I thought moving into a nursing home would simply mean more convenience, meals prepared for me, help whenever I needed it, but I didn't realize how quickly I would start to lose my strength. At first, it felt like a break. No more worrying about meal prep or housework, but gradually I stopped doing things for myself. Meals were brought to me, so I no longer stood in the kitchen to cook. If I needed something, I could press a button instead of getting up to get it myself. The less I moved, the stiffer I became. My legs felt weaker. I sat more than I used to, and before I knew it, getting up from a chair became difficult. The muscles I had spent years maintaining started fading faster than I ever imagined. I wasn't the only one. I watched it happen to others too. People who had arrived walking on their own 2 feet were suddenly using walkers, then wheelchairs. It's easy to assume that aging alone was to blame, but I knew better. The reality was, when you stop using your body, you start losing it. The simple act of standing up and moving, something I had taken for granted, was what had kept me going. Now everything was designed to make life easier, help available at the press of a button, chairs more comfortable than necessary. But ease came at a cost. Without the small movements of daily life, my muscles weakened. My balance became shaky. My body seemed to be aging at double speed. The reliance on medication only made things worse. Many of us were prescribed multiple pills for various ailments like pain, sleep, mood. While some were necessary, others left us feeling sluggish and disconnected. I saw people who had been lively and engaged become quiet, their energy drained. A woman's daughter confided in me, worried about how different her mother seemed just days after arriving. Her sharp mind dulled, her spirit faded. I started wondering how much of what we felt, tiredness, confusion, even sadness, was from aging, and how much was from the very medications meant to help us. It all fed into a vicious cycle. The less we moved, the weaker we got. The weaker we got, the more assistance we needed. The more assistance we needed, the less we moved. And so the decline continued, each step making the next one harder to reverse. It happened so gradually that I didn't even notice it at first. But one day I reached for something and realized I no longer had the strength to lift it. That was the moment it hit me. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving. If I could go back, I would walk more, stretch every day, and insist on doing what I could for myself. I would pay more attention to what I was putting in my body and question every new prescription. If you or a loved one is considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything around you encourages you to slow down? Because once you do, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. The sixth regret is realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I reassured myself that it was only temporary. I thought I'd try it out, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But I never expected just how difficult it would be to get out once I was in. At first, it seemed simple. If I wasn't happy, I could return to my home and pick up where I left off. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house sat empty, and from a distance, maintaining it became a challenge. My children, assuming I wouldn't be coming back, had already begun making changes, selling off items they thought I no longer needed, even discussing renting out the place. When I brought up the idea of returning, their hesitation was clear. Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you. That's when I realized how much I had lost. As living in the nursing home, I didn't have to cook, clean, or walk long distances. Over time, my body adjusted to the reduced effort. I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I had taken for granted was slipping away, and when I thought about moving back home, doubts crept in. Could I still manage the stairs? Would I be able to shop for groceries, drive myself to appointments, or even just get in and out of bed without assistance? The fear of struggling alone kept me from taking action. I wasn't the only one facing this reality. I met others who had come to the nursing home with the same plan, just staying for a little while, expecting to leave whenever they wanted. But the longer they stayed, the harder it became to imagine life outside. Some lost the option entirely once their homes were sold or their savings were drained by the high cost of care. With monthly nursing home fees often reaching thousands of dollars, financial constraints became another roadblock to leaving. Many families underestimate just how difficult it is to transition out of a nursing home. Once settled, residents often require more care than they initially anticipated, making independent living feel increasingly out of reach. In some cases, Medicaid or long-term care insurance policies don't cover alternative housing options, further limiting choices. This is the part nobody warns you about. Moving into a nursing home feels like a decision you can reverse, but for most people, it isn't. The nursing home gradually becomes your whole world. Familiar routines from the outside fade into the background. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you truly prepared for the possibility that once you move in, leaving may not be as simple as you think? The barriers to returning home, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be harder to overcome than you ever imagined. Life is full of choices, but some decisions carry consequences we don't fully understand until it's too late. Moving into a nursing home seemed like the right path until I realized what I had truly given up. Pieces of my life slowly faded away, replaced by routine, restrictions, and regrets. But this isn't just my story. It's a reality for many who step into nursing homes, expecting comfort, but finding challenges they never imagined. If you or a loved one are considering this transition, I urge you to pause. Ask the hard questions. Explore every alternative. Because once you make this choice, going back isn't always easy. Your life is still yours to shape. Your voice still matters. Don't let convenience decide your future. Fight for the independence you deserve. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's create a space where real conversations happen. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because together we can make more informed choices about the lives we want to live.